What's up, wrestling fans, trading card collectors? Welcome to another episode of Wrestling with Cards Live, episode 5. I've just kind of started doing these live streams kind of as a one-off, and next thing you know, here we're at episode 5. So obviously, this is a little bit different from my normal schedule. I don't normally do anything on Fridays. It's usually Tuesday, Thursday on the channel, but I figured it would be an impromptu episode, pretty important, as this whole news that's happened, and this is what we're going to talk about today. I'll just go ahead and put it up here. As you can see, the whole Fanatics and Panini and WWE and all that kind of nonsense that's been happening. A lot to talk about on that. I'm going to also leave a lot of it I'm not going to talk about because I'll let some other people talk about that. But we're going to start with mail. I know. What does this thumbnail and WWE and the future of wrestling cards have to do with mail? And that's kind of what I'm going to talk about. So if you've got questions in the chat, drop them in as we're opening up some mail. So here I've got a package from Glenn Williams on Twitter. I actually bought these from him. And it's a bunch of Emlyn Tunnel vintage football. What does vintage football have to do with WWE and Fanatics? It's just a relationship that I built with him on Twitter, and that will be store inventory. But the theme of the mail is going to tie in to this whole WWE fanatic nonsense. So let's see what we have in this package. Oh yeah, Karrion Kross stuff. Here we come. We've got blue, got the red, blue, orange flash, maroon. I think that's a base, and the silver. But we're not done. This was one lot that I purchased altogether. And you notice the variety in here. We've got Prism, we've got Select. I mean, is there going to be some tops in here? Maybe. Okay, so we've got 2 silvers and a red undercard and red wave. So that's it on that package. Moving on to this, I have no idea what this one is. Yes, I do. I remember now. Okay, so we opened some football, right? We opened some modern Prism and Select with the cross stuff. And now we've got vintage. We've got a authentic auto in a PSA, Joyce Grable auto. Took me forever to find one of these. Finally happy to add that one to the set. So we've got modern, we've got vintage, we've got something that has nothing to do with wrestling, but it's still going to benefit me. Got 2 more boxes. Actually, one of these looks like it's a PSA return, so you're in for a treat on that one because I have no idea what's in there. I just send these things off and they get back when they get back. Okay, so this is another lot of inventory I bought for my eBay store, which if you want to check out anything I have available, links in the show notes for that. You can check it out on your own time. But here's a lot from Ty the Collector, who go check him out if you aren't familiar with him already. You can find him on Twitter and Instagram. He does the WWE 1-of-1 tracker. So anything that's been publicly pulled, you can find that on his tracker on what's been pulled and what is still in boxes or what just hasn't surfaced to the general public. But we've got a stack of AEW Spectrum stuff, and we got some Pokemon. So all of that, again, store inventory, the cross stuff, and the Wrestling All-Stars PC, obviously. So Pokemon stuff, just a bunch of random stuff. Now let's get to this PSA sub because I really have no idea what is in there. In the meantime, we'll check out the chat. Miami Mark, what's up? Thanks for joining us again. Wrestling Heaven official channel. Welcome to the stream. And question here. How do you make those relationships in the wrestling card hobby to grow the collection and make friends along the way? First and foremost, you've got to get on social media. I know that's not what a lot of people want to hear. A lot of people don't like dealing with social media, which I totally get it. I've said it numerous times. If I wasn't creating content, I wouldn't be having anything to do with social media because there's just so much nonsense. But that if it wasn't for social media, I wouldn't have met half the people I know in the hobby. I wouldn't have gotten half the cards. Once you get on social media, just start sharing your collection. And people find out what you like. They can sell you that. They can buy you that. They can ask questions. That's the other thing is once you are on social media, track down anybody in the wrestling card community. Like, just start using hashtags. Use anything you want as a kind of a search engine, and then find the people. Start asking them questions if you have questions. Just engage with them and be respectful about it. If you're trying to sell a card, don't just jump in there and go, "What's this worth? You want to buy this, bro?" Like, don't do that. But just be respectful. Ask questions. And the more you do this, the more you just kind of become known for certain things, whether it's certain cards, whether it's content creation, whether it's a store or a system that you operate, or like I talked about, Ty the Collector, he's the one-of-one tracker guy. He's got a website built for that, so that's kind of what he's become known for. And you can find your own niche once you kind of get started. But again, just get on social media, and unfortunately, you got to stay on there quite a bit to begin with. All right. PSA subs. Let's see if we got screwed over this time. And Wrestling Have an Official channel, thanks for the comment. If you got any more anybody in the chat, questions, comments, if you're watching this on the archives, thanks again for stopping by, and leave a comment below. I'll get to that as well. All right, we got really cool relic card right on the top. And again, why am I opening mail? Obviously, people love mail, but there's a reason we're doing this, and that is because of... Uh-oh. Did I get something denied? Let's do that one first. I'm doing this because it's to kind of bring up a point with all this the Panini fanatics. I call it Fanini. Hey, maybe we get Fanini Prism. That's going to be what's coming out once they kind of get together. But I'm going to prove a point by opening all this mail. So I see what this is. It was not a denied. We're running on a streak here of just really irritating stuff. The Steve Austin magazine card and this gigantic behemoth thing, you've got to be kidding me. Again, like, this is probably petty on me. Let me know in the comments what you think. But when I get these oversized holders on standard cards, I have gotten to where, unless it is something that I just like truly can't get rid of, I just want to wash my hands of these things and be done with it. Because like my OCD, it doesn't fit in my boxes with the rest of my slabs, no matter what company it is, PSA, BGS, SGC, they all fit in a nice box. But when you get stuff like this, it doesn't. Regardless, here's a PSA 5 Steve Austin WCW magazine card. Some consider that the rookie. Next, we've got a Tom Brady Sports Center game used swatch. It's that E piece of the jersey. This one is definitely a PC item because I just remember watching it and I couldn't believe it was going on. 2020 Topps Chrome WWE Kevin Owens Stone Cold Steve Austin Fantasy Matchups Gold Refractor, a match we never thought that we would see. And I was watching WrestleMania that year, and I just was like, are these guys actually going to fight? Are they just going to do a promo and a stunner and be done? And then they had like that wild brawl. So the connection that I have with that is great. And you know what? This means more than this, even though maybe this is more iconic or worth more or whatever. And that's, again, kind of the theme that we're going to go with this Panini stuff. So let's quickly run through these. Atomic Refractor Rock out of 15 Chrome, Gem Mint 10. We don't know what we'll do with that yet. This one's fun. Orange Refractor Chrome, PSA 8. This one's different. Don't see a lot of these. PSA 5, although I'm not sure how you grade these. These are the lenticular. You can kind of see there, it's the Rock art box. So that's kind of fun. Gemmed this one, couldn't believe it. It's fun when you pick up something on eBay and it gems. Another orange. The poor man's gold is what I like to call these. Out of 99, 23 WWE Prism. The Rock. Happy to gem that. We've got a lot of Rock stuff in this. PSA 8. This is the 98 Cardinal, not the 97. So PSA 5 on this one. I don't know what I'll do with this yet, but the Santa Claus. This is a kind of promo dealer incentive thing that was given away a long time ago out of the 89 Pro Set Football. Let's see. Let me separate these because these next ones up, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1. Okay, so we've got 5 of the same card. One of them is a PSA 7. The rest are all PSA 8. Pantera. You guys know I'm a huge music fan and metal fan if you've been watching my content for any time. And these are actually pretty hard to find. So love Pantera. Had to get those graded. Some of these will be available in the eBay store. Again, links in the show notes if you want to check that out. a lot of them are going to be PC, so we'll just you just have to wait and see what happens. Here's a silver Topps Chrome Rock. That one got a 9. Here is a 2018 Women's Division rookie card with the logo, Asuka, PSA 8. This is actually for a Patreon member. If you guys are unaware, I have a Patreon page for anybody to go above and beyond to show their support for my content, and I gave away a free sub to one of the Patreon members. So he got that, and we'll get that in the mail to him. Next, I've talked about the Hogan PMG and kind of that pink, and how then I got that Drax or Dave Bautista, whatever you want to refer to that as, because it's also a pink PMG. And then I started expanding out, like, what do I connect with? And we got Jason Isbell. So we went from Pantera to Jason Isbell. Huge music fan. I like a variety. So this one is going to go with the Drax, with the Hogan. Don't care that it's a PSA 7. The pinks on these modern ones are numbered to 75, so that's a little bit different. Pretty happy with this one. This one, again, talk about connection when maybe it isn't worth a lot. Maybe it is. I don't really care. 2023 Disney 100 Frank Wolf or The Rock. Now, you see this is the fireworks parallel, and this got a 9, which, again, I'm happy with it. Nice eBay buy here. And the reason it has a connection with me is I just remember watching the fireworks at Disney World my first time, and it's The Rock. So tying The Rock with Disney, the fireworks, and going to the parks. I'm actually not a big Disney IP fan, but I love the parks. So I just love theme parks in general. If you guys have paid any attention to WTC YouTube channel, you've seen them talk about relics recently and the Fleer Championship Clash. Here's a 2002 All Access Rock and Mick Foley dual relic. Obviously, The Rock just has the plain black t-shirt, but I don't know if you can see very well. There's some black on the Mick Foley one, so you can tell clearly that was used. So that's fun. And then this one is just fun too. We're getting closer to Christmas. I brought out the Santa card. This one goes right along with it. 86 Carnation Road Warriors. Got a PSA 7 on that. These were in the hot chocolate packages for those of you who are unaware. I did a whole video on this series. You can check it out in the archives of this channel if you're interested. So yeah, you've seen in all of the mail that I've got today, we've had vintage, we've had modern, we've got weird stuff, we've got sports, we have stuff that has nothing to do with anything. What does that have to do with Panini and Fanatics? And I'm going to tell you in just a moment. But first, we're going to get to the chat. Ryan, welcome. Speaking of a Patreon member, Ryan Vox. What's going on? Glad to catch you live. Thanks for joining. Miami Mark, how do you go about choosing what cards to grade? It really depends. Like, it depends on what you want to do with it and the type of card it is. So, like, my Carrying Cross stuff, I don't grade anything. Superfractors, black, my black prism, hanging out in a binder. I don't grade any of that stuff. So, if you're buying stuff to preserve, so say it's Wrestling All-Stars or, like, this Carnation card or something that's like vintage, maybe, again, going back to the Steve Austin, maybe it is that Tom Brady game-used relic. When you're looking at that stuff and you just want to preserve it, just send it in. Send it in at the lowest price that you can get it at just to kind of preserve it, and it's cool to have it in there. If you're wanting to flip something, or maybe you have something that you know is worth something, but it's going to be easier to sell and graded, because it's always easier to sell graded, because then you don't have people on eBay like, oh, there's a ding on the corner and it wasn't disclosed, blah, blah, blah. So it's always easier to sell the graded stuff, but sometimes, depending on what it is, if you have something you think is going to gem, but if it doesn't gem, it's actually going to lose your money, then you got to take that into consideration. You have to take margins and shipping and all that stuff. So if it's a PC item, it doesn't matter, Miami Mark. But if you're looking to flip stuff, or something's worth something, and even if it grades a PSA 5, it's going to be more valuable than selling it raw and easier than selling it raw, then go for it. So thanks for that question. We got Ryan Vox back. He has to get his Soundgarden rookie card graded. Yep, that's, that music set for music fans, that's a really good set. So let's move on to the topic at hand. Panini, Fanatics, and for those of you unaware, let's share the screen one more time. So WWE terminates deal with Panini due to breach of contract, and Fanatics is nabbing the WWE rights, and I believe they're going to court today over this kind of stuff. Now, I'm not going to get into that because that is not really my forte. I will shout out Adam Gelman, Paul, Ryan, Tony on the Wrestling Trading Cards YouTube channel.com, whatever. You can find them. Those guys did a video yesterday or day before, and they covered a lot of ground on that. And if you want to just follow on Twitter, you can find all the court stuff that's going on with that. I'm not going to talk about a lot of that here. What I want to talk about is what you can do as a collector in response to this. So when I was, first off, I got to say, when I was kind of perusing the general wrestling news sites and social media, like those same companies that are putting out social media, I was clicking on this stuff, and then I was going to the comments to see, like, what are the collectors saying? And it was really interesting because very quickly the licensing was diverging into figure talk on a lot of these websites. Like, oh, I hope they don't lose the license to put out this ultimate blah, blah, blah. Or, oh, my elites are already in pre-order. Does that mean they're not going to show up? And I just kind of laughed because, forever we've been talking about wrestling. Why are wrestling fans buying T-shirts, magazines, those replica belts that I love so much, action figures, all these things, but they're just not getting into trading cards still. And why is that? And here we are with major news covered by major wrestling news outlets, and they're talking about cards right in front of wrestling fans, and the wrestling fans are still going, what about my figures? What about the... So, which there's nothing wrong with that. I got figure back there across. But it was just interesting to see how this kind of news for the, I guess, average wrestling fan kind of diverged into the figure talk and the rights on that, which I don't really know if that has anything to do with it. Not what we're here to talk about. If you have comments or questions on any of that, again, drop it in the chat, leave a comment below. So Fanatics is going to take this license over. We knew it was coming, but we didn't know it was going to be this abrupt. And a lot of people with Prism, with Select, with all this new Panini product coming in, we've had a lot of new collectors come in. And as you know, we've had the biggest wrestling card sale with the Rock Black, 1/1 Prism from 2022. We've had a lot of awesome things going on. We've had more content creation coming out. We've had more collectors. Again, Wrestling Heaven official channel asked earlier how to build relationships and get the more involved with the community, grow your collection. More of that stuff has been happening because of these Panini products and just more new products pushing out. Same thing with Upper Deck and AEW. I know there's a lot of negative things you can talk about with them, but overall, they have pushed so much interest into just wrestling cards. Even if it's, hey, I'm an AEW fan, I only want AEW cards. I don't want anything to do with Panini or Immaculate or Prism or Select or any of that. It still brought people in. So a lot of new collectors, and this may be kind of a fork in the road, so to speak, for a few collectors. And I think what the main topic I want to talk about here is, how do we approach this as collectors? I know what I'm doing. That's what we're going to talk about. But I think there's a lot of people that may be confused. Like I said, it could be a fork in the road with how they collect. And that's what I want to talk about. So we're going to start with the new collectors, the people that come into the hobby within the last year, or maybe they came in when AEW and Panini started kicking out product. And I think for a lot of those collectors, they were chasing new things. So the latest products come out, they've got to go get it, no matter what it is. And they're ripping packs because they like to rip packs or boxes. Or they're collecting this person because they saw them on TV, but then they switch to this. Then they switch to this. Then they switch to this. Joining breaks, joining like communities and thinking that maybe they need to do what these communities are doing, or they're, taking this investment advice that they see all over social media or YouTube or content or whatever. And they've got to do that. And this could potentially, this takeover and the delay with new products coming in could potentially put a bind with what those collectors to do, or what they do, what they like to do, their habits. So how should you approach this as kind of a newer collector? And I say, first off, and if you're an OG collector, we're going to cover you guys in just a second. But if you're new, if you're an OG, the first thing you need to do really is take a step back and realize, like, have a serious self-reflection with yourself and why are you doing this? Why are you buying cards in the first place? And then start kind of breaking that down. Is it fun to you? Because if you're not having fun, what's the point in doing any of this in the first place? And, the collecting in general, even with social media, even with this stream that we're doing right now with these people in the chat and everybody watching, even if it's in the archives, thank you for doing that. It's kind of a solitary hobby. Most of us spend times with our collections just at home by ourselves, sorting or posting pictures. Most of the time, you're doing that by yourself. So you kind of have to go back and realize, like, does this takeover affect my fun? Does it affect, like, if I was part of this whatnot break that broke every Monday, just say before Raw, and all of a sudden that goes away because there's no new product? Does that mean that I can't be part of a community anymore? And then does that mean that my fun is taken away? That's just kind of one way to look at it. So make sure you're having fun. If you're not having fun, unfortunately, maybe time for you to get out. But also realize it's a solitary hobby. It's supposed to be fun for you, and it doesn't really matter what anyone else thinks or collects or whatever. Let's talk about community. Again, maybe the community becomes more than the collection. So just because there's not new product coming out for 5 6 months, and we don't know this either. I don't know anything. Speculation, pure speculation that maybe it's 2 months, maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's a year before we start seeing Fanatics actually putting out specific wrestling cards for WWE. Maybe it's next month. Like, we have no idea. It is the potential for Panini to still put out product. Elite, I think, was already like set to release. So if those things are printed, are they eventually going to put them out anyway? Because they're getting sued. So like, what are you going to do? Like, put them out anyway. So I don't know on any of that stuff, but a lot of breaking, a lot of new product, a lot of the groundswell around that stuff has been community driven, whether it's private Facebook groups, whether, again, going back to Whatnot and breaks or any kind of community involvement, card shows. Most of that stuff that's kind of boomed in the past year, I'll say, has been because of modern product. And a lot of people I know that are collecting, they only go after that new stuff. As I said, they're not going back and looking at a lot of stuff from the past. And then, I think that's kind of a double-edged sword because, again, like the community, social media, a lot of times we get kind of stuck in this hive mentality and tribalism mindset with certain products or certain talent or certain ways of approaching the hobby, as opposed to, again, taking a step back, having that self-reflection and realizing, am I having fun? What am I doing here? Is this because I'm trying to impress somebody? Is it because I truly want to collect this talent or this set or this product or whatever it is, and I don't care what anyone else thinks? That's going to have to be, again, something that some newer collectors or maybe old school collectors are going to have to kind of ask themselves. I have another question here. What's your favorite set so far in the Panini era? How about my least favorite, the 2022 NXT? I would say that is the lowest. My next would probably be like Chronicles. I think there's a lot of really good Chronicles products or like sub products in there. Like, I love Optic. I think it's great. National Treasures, fantastic. But then there's other stuff in there that I'm just like, I understand why they did it, and there's a lot of people that collect it. I've got like the base Chronicles stuff. I have a lot of Karrion Kross stuff in that. Almost the whole rainbow at this point. So I was going to collect that stuff regardless if it has Kross in it because I got to have it part of the super collection. But I mean, Prism probably number one, Select probably number two, Immaculate and Impeccable is kind of right there, and then and I really wish they would have put more in effort into the Instant. I got the Karrion Kross full run of that, but then they don't promote this stuff, and I thought the prices were reasonable, so people that do want to super collect and want to go out there and want to get the one of ones, like, they're affordable. They're like $100 for whoever it is. Miami Mark's favorite release was Revolution, likes the Blink, Galactics. You know what? Everything from Galactics to the base cards on there, they were very sparkly and shiny, and the designs were really cool. I would probably put that just below Impeccable and Immaculate, but I still like those and Select and Prism better. But I like all of them. Again, Kross is in everything except for the 2022 NXT. So all that stuff I have, and I've loved all of it. But again, look at the theme here. I'm buying this stuff no matter. Guess what? I'm still buying tops. I got a black Kross black refractor out of 10 not too long ago. I've been buying all this stuff for what it is I collect since Panini put stuff out. I'm going back and I'm still looking for AAA stuff. I'm looking for indie cards that have Kross on them that are out there. Just all kinds of stuff. And that, again, we're going to get into some more of what you can do, how you can approach this Fanatics takeover as a collector. I've already broken down a few things. Are you having fun? What is your involvement with the community? Does the community actually drive you more than the cards? Because, hey, if you've made friends in the hobby by getting involved with social media and getting involved with the cards, that's actually can be more fun than the new product release, because then you can start talking about wrestling, talking about, family, or just off the cuff topics that maybe cards kind of generated that initial spark, but then you're starting to talk about other things, and then those relationships become more valuable than the cards themselves. Kind of like super collecting. Like I just said, the cross cards in some of the stuff, it was just okay, but the super collection at this point kind of outweighs whatever is the picture on the card, or if there's no parallels. Like, for example, I still had to have that what year is it? The UK exclusive base card set that they put out. There was like no parallels, right? But Cross had a card in it, so I had to have it. So again, like the collection, the aspect of collecting and the community, a lot of times is going to outweigh new releases, new products. So are you just following the crowd? Again, that goes back to the community and how social media can be a double-edged sword, how content can be a double-edged sword, because maybe you fall into that mindset, and then the next thing you know, you're all about that, but you're not really focusing on your collection, or you have to, again, have that self-reflection. Why am I collecting in the first place? And this is really what I would suggest. I got two things that I want to suggest to kind of the people who may have a problem or have issues with the takeover from Fanatics and what this is going to cause. And that is, the first being, niche down into your own interests. So I know a lot of people that are kind of taking the shotgun approach to collecting and just kind of buying this and buying that. This person said this is a good investment, I'll pick it up. I kind of like this person. I kind of want to prospect in this person. You can collect however you want. I'm never going to say, do this, don't do that. But what I would advise you to do to just kind of keep that interest driving in a time period where we may not have new cards coming out, niche down and find out what it is you really like. Is it that set? Is it that product? Is it that parallel? Is it that talent? Is it the faction? Is it a brand? Like, whatever it is, take that role and say, this is what I've enjoyed throughout the whole time of collecting thus far with all new products coming out. So that's what I'm going to focus on. And again, that's one thing, the Karrion Kross Super Collection, Wrestling All-Star signed sets. Those two things carry me through everything. If I miss an auction, I still have these things going. A new product release comes out and there's not a cross card in there, I don't really need it because my focus is niched down into these other things. Again, I'm not telling you how to collect, but that's one thing that's really kept me focused and allows me to continue having fun regardless of what's coming out or the lack thereof. So the next thing is to kind of, I guess, contradict what I just said, and that's finding something new. But it also has to do with niching down as well. So what I'm saying is, like, maybe you've been set collecting, or maybe you're just going after gold prisms. You hit a wall, or the person you collect just got cut. There's no new WWE products coming out. So you're at that point where you're just like, no new products. This person doesn't wrestle anymore. They retired, whatever. I don't really into this collection anymore. I'm going to get rid of it. Start looking for something new. Maybe, I'm not suggesting this necessarily, but maybe you all of a sudden say, you know what? I see all these people, these wrestling all-stars. I love the 80s. I'm going to go buy that. Or maybe it's, I grew up with 1998 WCW cards. I'm going to go collect that base set, or just whatever it is. I'm just pulling out examples here. But finding something new that drives the passion, drives the reason you collect, or maybe it's a community thing. Again, community can kind of override the collection or lack thereof. For example, I'm in a group chat with, I think, 3 or 4 other cross collectors. Yes, they are out there, believe it or not. We get this all the time. Why are you collecting Karrion Kross? Why are you collecting this person or that person? They don't get TV time. They got cut today recently. And who cares? Like, it's about the collection. It's about our connection with them. And people need to realize that. Like, you got to stop looking at these things like, what can I sell this for? What's this worth? Is that a part of our collection? Absolutely. Should you be smart about spending money or selling? Sure. But, again, my black prism 1-of-1 cross hanging out in a binder because it's part of the set. It goes together. My wrestling all-stars, and then most of them are not high grade. I don't care. It's not about what they're worth. It's about what they're worth to me, the connection that I have with them, putting together the set, building something, because the more you start being consistent with building something, and this could be anything in life, the more effort you put into it, the more you're going to stick with it and kind of shut out the outside noise, so to speak. So if you're having problems kind of finding what you want to do with the collection now that we may not have WWE products for a while, number one, niche down into something you really like. Number two, if you can't find anything, try to find something new and then niche down into that. And it may take a little bit. You may have to kind of take that shotgun approach before you find something that you really like. I've done that. I was starting a Road Warriors PC. Then I started Dusty Rhodes and then a Brock Lesnar. And then I had a bunch of Cody stuff. And then I realized kind of all that stuff is kind of scattered around. Like it wasn't grabbing my focus like the All-Stars, like the Karrion Kross stuff, like the ECW autograph sets that I'm putting together. So again, niche down. And then if you need to take the shotgun approach while we have this potential lack of new product coming out, go back and find stuff from the 80s, the 90s, even, the early 1900s. Maybe it's something from AEW that you're like, you know what, AEW is still putting stuff out. I'm going to give that a try. I don't know, but I'm just giving suggestions on what you could potentially do to keep the fire of collecting, keep that passion, keep the interest. We've got another question here. Wrestling Heaven official channel. Thanks again for the question and stopping by. Does being off TV affect the price of cards? Yeah, depending on what it is. But, pricing's subjective, and you can get into this discussion on social media all the time with people. I think a lot of people often overvalue their cards. They think they're worth more than they are. And for example, I've had people send me DMs and they're like, I don't know anything about this new product, but I just ripped this. I got this card. What's it worth? So, I generally try to help people as much as I can. So I do some research and I'm like, that's a $50 card, a $10 card, a $100 card. And a lot of times they're upset because they're like, I paid this much for this hobby box. I paid $400, let's say, and I'm getting a $15 return. And again, that's that value. Like you've got to look at ripping as entertainment, as fun, and you got to enjoy the product as opposed to just looking at it from a value perspective. If you're just doing that, you're going to take a loss more often than not on all these things. So it does affect the price of cards. However, sometimes, for example, look at and this is an interesting example, but the WCW autographs, those things are selling more and more each month. It seems like those prices keep going up and up and up. Half of those guys are deceased. Half of them have not been are alive, but haven't been on TV for years, decades even. So that doesn't affect those because it's about the rarity of the card. But then there are other things that do affect TV time. And I think that's more of that prospecting mindset. And that's not something I like to do. Again, if you like to prospect, go for it. But I don't really like to do that so much. But I think that is what can affect it, because you see somebody pop up on TV that hasn't been there in a while. I'll see in my eBay store, a lot of their cards start selling now. It could be base cards. It could be a parallel or an auto. It's not like certain cards are worth more or going up more. It's just the general out of sight, out of mind. Maybe they're not interested. But when it's in front of them on TV, they're all about going after that. And really that's kind of the problem that we have, I think, with a lot of collectors is they're only going after new products because that's what they see on social media. That's what they're getting emails about from their LCS or their online store that they buy from. It's just, what have you done for me lately? What's in front of me? Instead of taking a step back, having that self-reflection and saying, what do I really like? What do I not need? And what makes me happy in my journey of collecting? So to answer your question, long-winded, yes, it does, but sometimes it doesn't matter. It just depends on what you want to do. Time to get that Parkhurst collection going. Hey, yeah, I know, actually, I've talked to a few people that are putting that set together. I think they're really cool cards. I think that's going to be more so who you know in the set and if you're interested in them, because just going after it, maybe. Now, I will say I'll do a whole video on this, but the original Allen and Ginter from 1889, I do have that full set complete now. It is at SGC. Why SGC when you've got this whole stack of PSA slabs, bro? The vintage cards, pre-war stuff, I really think that stuff looks better in SGC slabs. That's just me. But that's complete side note. But, I don't know any of the talent. Well, maybe one. But 1 out of 6 or 7 or whatever is in that set. I don't know that much about them, but it's the fact that I've got this 6 or 7 card set that's over 100 years old. And it's the first wrestling cards ever produced. First card. It's not actually a wrestling card set, but it's cards of wrestlers. That's the first time that had ever been done. So to me, like it was more about the legacy and the origins of wrestling cards for that than it was the talent on the card. A lot of people do that with like gold prisms, or they buy black 101s because of the rarity of it, not necessarily because of who's on the card. So yeah, I mean, the Parkhurst again. Think Ryan's thinking outside the box here and doing something different, not just doing whatever people tell him to do. Good take. You know what I did to choose my guys? Survivor Series team to save my life. There you go. Yep. Charles, what's up? We all know that the Miz is greater than Karrion Kross. Charles, it depends. If you want to talk TV time, if you want to talk overall fandom, if you want to talk like merch sales, probably. Like the Miz he's been on TV for years now. Cross can't even get on TV. That doesn't change my opinion on either of them. But Charles, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for the comment, livening up this chat with the funny Miz take. So let's go into kind of what do we do, and this isn't probably going to be anything new, but if either you're a newer collector and you've decided that this is still something you want to do regardless of new product coming out, or maybe you're an OG collector and you're like, I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm just going to keep it going. I don't care about new product. There's always stuff to go back and look for. And I think the first question that you need to kind of ask is, are you in this for the long haul? And if so, what do we do now? No new products coming up. Focus on what you've collected in the past or what you're interested in. Let's go back to the first of this live stream when I opened all my mail and I had all these PSA slabs, or I had, the stack of inventory that I'm going to sell, the All Stars, the Cross stuff that I got. I had vintage, I had sports, I had non-sport, I had ultra modern. I had a little bit of everything because my interest is kind of all over the place. I'm not saying your interest has to be all over the place, but my point by opening the mail on the stream today was to drive home the point that you can go back and get whatever it is you want. Again, this goes back to finding something new, maybe. Maybe you were super collecting somebody that got cut, like I said. You're like, I'm going to go back and look at 87 Tops. I want to go back and look at 91 Impel. And because maybe there's a legacy there or a connection, and it could be anything. Maybe it has nothing to do with wrestling cards. Maybe you want to go buy wrestling figures. Maybe you want to go put together an LJN set. It's all about the connection, no matter what that is. So just because you have a new product coming out doesn't mean you have to stop collecting and stop doing what you're doing. That the reaction for wrestling card fans on Twitter and Instagram and podcast, YouTube, whatever, it's been interesting because I see a lot of people that are like up in arms, like, oh, I can't collect now because they're not going to make cards anymore. And I'm just like, okay. And then I see other people that are like, well, I've got plenty of stuff. I can, wrestling cards have been around for years now. I can go back and I can buy the stuff that I missed. I can fill in those holes of those sets or that product. Or maybe I've had this on my watch list forever. And I can go back and buy that now because I know there's not anything new coming up anytime near soon that is somebody I collect. So I don't have to worry about that. I can go back and look in the back. That's my Cross mezzanine gold from eBay coming your way. Hey, thank you. Thanks for offering that. Glad it's going to a good home. Yeah, and it's been a lot easier for me to. Now, this is interesting because people say, select. If you're going to super collect select, you're going to have like a 90 card rainbow, right? Which may be true actually. But the thing with select is like, okay, so I bought this gold mezzanine cross card yesterday, and that's it. Like, I just buy the one, as opposed to Prism, and this is my own doing. I'm putting together that Prism binder, and again, my OCD, I wanted 3 cards of each parallel, so they look uniformity in the binder. So that's why Select has been a little bit of breath of fresh. I'm buying more cards, but they're all different as opposed to that. So thank you for the sell on that, and I look forward to getting that. Charles is back. I'm thinking Impeccable and Immaculate will become great cards to have many years down the road. The only set that will be produced by... Yeah, and those are higher end anyway. And I would say, kind of, if I was just kind of making an off-the-cuff prediction of what may be the most sought-after or valuable card, and this is not investment advice, I'm just, again, speculation. Out of the 2 years that we had Panini, I would say Prism Black's still number 1. Prism Gold's probably number 2. I would say those logo man with the WWE logo relic cards, those one of ones that are out there. Those would probably be number 3. Um, and then after that, I don't know. It'll be interesting. But those are kind of the top 3: Prism Black, Prism Gold, and those logo man WWE one of one cards. That's kind of what I would put in the hierarchy of what are we going to look at. And you know what? You said the impeccable and immaculate. Maybe that stuff ends up being compared to like Transcendent. Like, and if Transcendent comes out, maybe people go back and be like, "Oh, well, Panini put this out, and it's similar. I want to go buy that stuff." So, good call on that, Charles. Going to miss Select as Duke is back. Going to miss Select as a set. Great photography in the ring sides and mezzanines. Yeah, you know, a lot of people have said that Select is probably their favorite Panini product that they did. Like, better than Prism, better than Immaculate, Impeccable, better than NXT. But I think Select has been fun. Now, take this either way. Super collectors either love or hate Select. For me, I love it because that's just that many more cross cards I can buy. But there are some people out there that are like, I got to chase down 95 million different parallels. I don't want to do that. I don't want to spend the money. And that's fine. But that's just my perspective. I think Select, images aside, the parallels have been very cool. And it gives us super collectors a lot of stuff to chase. So Duke, Charles, thank you guys for the comments. Again, if you're watching this, you have comments, questions, anything we've talked about, just drop it in the chat. Leave a comment below if you're watching this on the archives. So, going kind of tying a bow on that last part for, you know, you're in this for the long haul. You've decided you want to collect forever. This is your hobby. You're going to keep this going. Just continue niching down into what you do. And if you get to the point where you're like, I completed this set, I don't know what to do, find something new. Again, maybe you go back and look at some of the top stuff. Maybe you're like, I had this card when I was a kid. It was part of this set. I'm going to go put that set together. And I think during this process, you need to worry less about what is this going to be worth in 5 years? What is the investment? What's my return on investment with this card going to be if I start this new PC project? Got to throw that out the window. It's not, there are certain cards, like I'm not going to go out and buy, let's just hypothetically say there's a cross card out there that's a one of one, it gets pulled, and someone wants $5,000 for it. Not going to do it. I had this already happen with the one of one Superfractor Transcendent Auto from Cross. Person on eBay had it way, way, way overpriced, more than I was going to pay. I eventually got it for, I would say the general public will probably think I overpaid for it, but I paid what was affordable to me at the time, and I don't regret that at all. So I think you still need to be smart from a value perspective as far as like spending money. If you can afford it, do whatever you want, obviously. But if you're collecting on a budget, and maybe that's another problem for a lot of people is they are collecting on a budget, really focus in on what it is, kind of put that baseline of what you're willing to pay for certain things, and then buy it. But on the flip side, if you're buying something that's $20, like you don't need to, in my opinion, you don't need to be approaching that as, well, is this going to be worth 40 in 6 months? In 6 years, is this going to be worth 200? You know what? Like, I'm not thinking that way at all with the cross card. Even Wrestling All-Stars, like those are looked at as investments by a lot of people, and to me, it's just not. It's a fun set. One of these days, I'm going to do a video, not necessarily breaking down the set, but why that set is just so important to me, specifically the set that I do have. But again, it's all about connection and what it means to you, not necessarily what it's worth, even though the value of things is constantly what's kind of crammed down our throats. Guys, that's why a lot of the sports card stuff has died off, because there's a lot of people that just got into it, and instead of finding their favorite team and collecting that, or their favorite player or whatever, and just doing that, and having fun doing that, interacting with community. Granted, there are a lot of them that stuck around and they are doing that. But on the flip side, a lot of them got out just because they were looking and get that quick flip, which nothing wrong with flipping, nothing wrong with buying, selling, dealing. Takes everybody to keep the hobby economy going. But they got in and they got over their head or over their skis in some of these investments, and they couldn't flip it or sell it or, you know, send the hot potato off to the next person. So they just got out, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Got another comment here. Graham, Wrestling Card Wizard. Shout out to Graham. He was on the channel in the archives. You can go check that out. I'm a huge fan of Revolution. What did you find was your favorite Panini product or parallel? Graham, we actually talked about this a minute ago. I'm going to say Prism. I'm not a Prism fanboy, but this goes back to the cross bias. And when I saw this, like, he's just walking. It looks like he's walking out of the card. You can Google the image or just look on my Instagram if you guys want to see some of that. But I was like, this is the first cross prism. We know what prism means. And I love the parallels. So let's talk about parallels. What's my favorite parallel? I really like the animal prints. I know a lot of people don't like those, but those are really cool. Tiger, zebra, all that stuff. I think Select has probably got my favorite stuff because it's got the golds, it's got the blacks, but then it's got the really weird stuff. That's, I like the tricolor, like that pink and that teal color. It's not really that rare. It's not valuable, but it looks really cool. So Graham, thanks for that. So again, to kind of answer your question, I would say Prism is my favorite Panini product, and then my favorite parallel, probably pick something and Select because I like so many of them. Thanks for the question. Charles, thoughts on Immaculate Platinum one of ones? If you've got one of ones out there, like regardless of what it is, like either go after them, hang on to it, keep collecting it, like whatever it is, like that's the top tier of, even if you want to go like Rick Boogs, he just got cut, right? There's going to be collectors out there that still want his one of one cards. One of one cards, Prism Blacks, or any of those kind of things are going to be sought after no matter what, because there's also people out there, and I talked about this before, there's people out there that are only looking at Prism Black cards, and they're like, I don't care what jabroni is on this card. I want the card because of what it is, what it means, and the legacy that it has meant in other aspects of the hobby. So any one of one, fantastic. In fact, my favorite carrying cross card is my Transcendent Superfractor one of one. It's better than Prism. It's better than Topps Chrome Gold, better than Prism Gold, better than anything else that I have in my collection. It's my favorite card. So Graham's back with another question. Do you think Panini pushed wrestling collectors to look beyond just autographs? Graham, stick around next week. I have a live stream planned where I'm going to talk about how autographs are overrated. And there's going to be a lot of people that are wrestling card OGs that are not going to like this. There's going to be a lot of people that have come in recently and they're not going to like this. And I just have a lot to say about autographs. And it actually, I want to give credit to whoever posted this. I actually screenshotted the post in the Card Foundation Patreon group, which you guys should check that out. Johnny Espinoza, he is the one that posted a picture of some autograph cards. And if you're part of the Card Foundation Patreon group, you can go back and check that out in the group, and you can probably find out what I'm talking about. But I won't spoil it here. But he posted a picture of some autographs that very, very low in price. Yet people complain because, oh, my box doesn't have 100 autographs in it. But then they also complain when those 100 autographs aren't selling for $100 a piece. We'll break that down. So again, Graham, to answer your question, I'll probably get into that. To answer your question, I guess, yes, a little bit. But I want to talk about that in the live stream that we're going to do next week. I believe we'll do that next Thursday. So thanks for that. Miami Mark's back. I agree. We need more wrestling collectors than investors compared to the compare New Day merch versus their cards. Yeah, like their merch, to my knowledge, sells a lot, and their cards don't sell for anything. And we're still, again, that goes back to when I opened the show, and I was looking at all of these wrestling news websites and social media, and it was interesting how quickly that the discussion on wrestling cards, the wrestling card licenses with major manufacturers diverged into wrestling figure talk. Like, it's just something that I don't know what it's going to take. Like, the community grows more and more every day. That's no denying, and for different reasons. But I think we're just going to have to, as a community, continue to post what we like, continue to talk about what we like, because like I've been in, when I used to collect figures, I've been in the wrestling figure groups, and I see what people are talking about, and they talk about the collection. They talk about what that figure means to them, what that collection means to them, as opposed to a lot of times when we see people posting cards, it's about what it's worth. It's about the rarity. It's about the value, as opposed to maybe somebody posts a Hogan LJN graded, or maybe it's just like, out of the package, beat up, and they're like, hey, I've had this since my childhood. This means a lot to me. And I think that kind of needs to be the narrative that we push for wrestling cards. But we also don't need to be naive or ignorant to the fact that wrestling cards do have value. They're important. And honestly, most of the wrestling cards that I've either gotten tired of and sold or just bought to flip, most of those have been more lucrative than any other piece of wrestling memorabilia that I've ever had, interested in, collected, or sold. So we're just going to have to kind of change the narrative on that, I think. Graham's back with another question. Graham, I appreciate you stopping by, and I appreciate all the questions. Do you think we'll have new cards being produced by the time of Mania 40? We could have them next month. We might not have them for a year. I think it would probably be a good marketing aspect. And once again, with Fanatics taking over, maybe we start seeing more wrestling card advertisements on WWE product. We know that when Prism came out, the very first Prism set, WWE was advertising that. When Upper Deck came out with AEW products, AEW was advertising that stuff. And then it just seems like it kind of floundered. I'm not sure, because it seems like the collector basis for that stuff grew, even though the advertising on it kind of floundered. But it's no different than sports. I mean, we're not seeing a lot of, like, when I watch I don't miss hardly any NFL games. And this isn't a sports show, but when I watch an NFL game, they're not talking about, the latest Panini product coming out or the latest football launch, or they're not even talking about NFTs or anything else that could potentially be put out. I do see Fanatics commercials, though, nonstop, and it's always about the gear. So maybe they start sliding in those commercials, whether it's WWE or sports or whatever. If Fanatics owns it, maybe they start sliding in cards. Like, here's your hat, here's your hoodie, here's your card, something like that. Just kind of to kind of percolate the idea and get people thinking about, oh, cards, collectibles. Like, I buy bobbleheads. Why don't I just buy this as well? Because I remember I used to collect cards when I was a kid. That's another narrative and then maybe the narrative is value, and that's fine. There's people come in that just want to buy and sell and make money. Nothing wrong with that, because if it's not for some of those people, we don't get the cards in our own collections that we buy off eBay, that we trade in private groups or anything like that. So just kind of close up here. You're going to be without cards potentially for a little bit, and I just want to stress that you go back and you realize why you're doing this in the first place. Why do you collect anything you collect? Why are you involved with these communities that you're involved in? Why do you create content if you're a content creator? Or if maybe that's something you've been thinking about doing and you just haven't pulled the plug. You want to start that wrestling podcast or that wrestling card YouTube channel or the blog or whatever it is. Maybe this is an opportunity for you to put more time into that and less time into breaks, or more time into that and more money into that and less money into buying maybe the latest product just because you saw someone on social media saying this is a good investment. I don't know. But if you're going to keep collecting, keep just having fun, whether that's going back. Maybe you don't buy anything. Maybe you just sit on the sidelines and wait for this kind of dust to settle on all this licensing stuff, and then start making plays on investments, on new PCs, on new sets, like whatever it is you want, because we're kind of into the unknown. And again, I think a lot of the court hearings with Panini and I can't remember if it's Panini and I think it's Panini and WWE at this point. I don't know that Fanatics has actually got involved with court stuff. I could be wrong. Again, I think Paul Lesko on Twitter, make sure you check him out, and you can find a lot of the court stuff that's going on. I believe it is going on as we speak. So, Card Pros, thanks for stopping by as always. I think we have you in here on every stream almost. A wrestler's fan base and card rarity is almost always going to trump what a wrestler has, quote, accomplished. I saw that Bayley autograph post and didn't really see what the big deal was, i.e. her auto prices. I don't think it's a big deal necessarily with her. I think it's a big deal within the collector base overall. And going back to what Graham said, Panini kind of pushing collectors to look beyond autographs. We're still, I don't know that we're there yet, but that kind of has to do what we're going to talk about next week. So you guys want to stay tuned next week. Probably about the same time on Thursdays, probably when I'll do another one of these. I'll put the link out, put it on social media and everything. Speaking of, check the links in the show notes for all of my social platforms, all the other ways that you can help support my content if you enjoy this stream, if you enjoy any of the videos on the archives, my podcast. If this video brought you some value today, hit that subscribe button, give me a like, tell more people about this. I really love having you guys in the chat today and being able to discuss some things that maybe reinforce something I said. Maybe it's taken an angle I wasn't thinking of. Maybe it's just answering a question that has nothing to do with anything, and I'm able to help you guys out. Just kind of like going back up here to our first question of the day. Yep, that is mine, actually. Wrestling Heaven official channel. Let's end with this note. once again, how do you make those relationships in the wrestling card hobby? How do you grow that collection and make friends along the way? Guys, get involved with social media. I know a lot of you don't want to because you maybe it's awkward to you. Maybe you don't know how to interact with people. First thing you need to do, start an account, whatever it is, start posting your collection. Are you a super collector? Are you a set collector? Do you have a set that's 500 cards? Start posting each card one by one. Tell your story, why you connect with that, what it means to you, why you're doing that in the first place. And then go from there. Like maybe you start following other people within the community. Ask them questions about their cards. Send them a DM if they, hey, I see you're a super collector of this. Would you like to buy? Would you like to trade? I have this. It belongs with you, that sort of thing. So let's end it on that. We've got all this mumbo jumbo with Fanatics, Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, blah, blah, blah. There's all this stuff going on with the wrestling card hobby right now. And just niche down. Have fun collecting what you collect. Keep setting those goals, building those collections, and then get involved with the community via social media. Start creating content. Just keep it going. That's what I'm going to do. Like this news that came out doesn't affect me. Does that mean like Karrion Kross hasn't got cut yet? Fingers crossed he doesn't. But does that mean that there's going to be less cross cards coming out? Yeah, it does. But I got Select. I got Prism stuff I'm still chasing. I've got Topps stuff I'm still chasing. So like whatever you're collecting, just keep it going. Find new ways. Maybe it's new organizations. Maybe it's grading. Maybe you want to start getting your collections graded. There's all just different kinds of things you can continue to be involved with your collection, with the hobby, and don't let it get you down. Just keep going. Graham's got one more question. Thanks for all of the Top Rope content, buddy. Hey, I don't know if this is Top Rope content. This may be like a curtain jerker content, but we liked to participate. Interact. Anytime you're doing anything in the hobby, interact. Spot on, Ryan. Absolutely. Like, again, I would not have my Karrion Kross Transcendent Superfractor Auto if I hadn't been in contact way prior to that with Dan Wynn, the great curator. He's been on the channel. I'm sure you guys have seen his content out there, but he just happens to run into the card at the Dallas Card Show. And he knew that I collected Cross because I post about it. I talk about it. I engage. But then I engaged with him on like just to talk wrestling cards in general, or just to talk about what he's seeing at shows or buying or selling, whatever. So that relationship was built. The card appears. Now the card's in my collection. That's how these things work. So regardless of new product, regardless of your latest favorite talent getting cut, no matter what, the hobby's going to keep going. It's been going on for hundreds of years. And again, if you want more information kind of on the nuts and bolts of the Fanatics, Panini, WWE stuff, make sure to go check out the WTC YouTube page, Wrestling Trading Cards on YouTube. Adam, Ryan, Paul, Tony, they all did a video kind of breaking down this stuff in a little bit more detail. I wanted to tackle this content or this from a different angle, from a more of a collector angle, and not so much who said what, who's doing what, when are we getting cards, like that sort of thing. I might take you on the social media thing. I would like to do my part to grow the hobby. Keep doing your thing. Thank you for that. And Miami Mark, again, like join a single platform. Join all the platforms. It doesn't matter. But just start posting your collection and talking about it. And if you get one like, who cares? Like that one like could turn into different people kind of spider web of hobby relationships down the road. Again, with my eBay store, like I talked about Ty, the curator, Ty the collector. Sorry, I'm getting him and Dan Wynn mixed up. So I got all this stuff from him. That's all going to my eBay store, but he had stuff that he needed to sell. We had talked back and forth. We've made this relationship now. So now I have like inventory to come into my store. But also, if he runs into a cross card, he'll probably sell it to me. That's just how these things go. The more you put yourself out there, the more you interact with, and you're respectful about it with like-minded collectors, the more fun this is. The more cards you get in your collection, the more cards you can buy, sell, trade. It's just a blast. So thank you guys for stopping by again. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Again, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Spread the word about this, especially the live streams, because if I come on here with a topic and I don't even get to talk about the topic very much, and we have a really engaging chat and we can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about, I'm fine with that. I just love engaging with the community and helping however I can. So thank you guys for watching. And